Hey! I had no plan for what I was going to say here. WheezyNews! Jang, jing, badonk-a-donk, boom. Picking a thing and then doing that thing over and over and over again. Consistency. That's the answer to the mystery I proposed in the title of this video, I assume. I don't know what I'm going to title this. Make it up as I go. When I started this, from mid-2007 to mid-2009, I made 100 videos to 32 subscribers. But then I started getting consistent. I made a video every weekday. It's always been hard to define what it is I'm actually making other than consistently, tightly editing something with my style of humor. Being uploaded at a consistent, vigorous pace. That's when the channel started to succeed. This is the Wheezy Waiter channel, by the way, not the WheezyNews channel, which you're watching right now. WheezyNews channels always rode on the coattails of the Wheezy Waiter channel. It's pathetic, really. When you get right down to it, the most successful things that there are consistent things. That sentence wasn't very successful. I often come across stuff where I'm like, why is that so popular? Why do people like this? And people like to cynically point out, including me, I'm guilty of everything I accuse everyone else of. Luckily, I haven't had to accuse anyone of murder up to this point. Then that would mean I would have to commit a murder. Anyway, the cynical things people point out. Oh, he's just good looking. People just like bright colors and loud noises. This is just for toxic people. They just paid a lot for advertising. Ugh, millennials, am I right? Ugh, zoomers, am I right? Ugh, boomers, am I right? Ugh, opposite end of the political spectrum, am I right? What's harder to see is that they probably have been putting out the same type of content in the same length, the same time of day, same days of the week, same platform, same structure, same sensibility for a long time. Of course, there's exceptions of people who just got super viral right away and have capitalized on that success. But how did they capitalize on it? They probably had to be consistent about something. Or maybe I'm wrong, maybe not. Maybe this only applies to people that lack any sort of marketable natural talent like me. But that's great news for anyone who lacks any natural marketable talent, like you, Gary. Speaking of Gary, I came across this chart on Twitter, @WheezyWaiter. Follow me. The name Gary is dying out. It surged in popularity back in the 50s because Gary Cooper took it as a stage name, which he named after Gary, Indiana, which means everyone's name is based on Gary, Indiana, which was actually named after Albert Henry Gary, and Gary was a common last name. And now it's my go-to for any hypothetical person I'm talking to, Gary. Anyway, think of things like Seinfeld, the show about nothing. It's not really about nothing, but it is about consistently being what it is. Like, imagine if they had a very special episode and it was very emotional. People would be pissed, including me. The finale seems to be hated by a lot of people because it was a departure from what they normally do. It's because the show, which isn't really about anything, hinged on being about the consistency of it. Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld made like a no hugging pact. There wasn't going to be any hugging, there wasn't going to be any making up after an argument, and no learning. And it succeeded. It's incredibly enjoyable to watch these characters fail and fight over and over again. I narrowed down why I think consistency is so great. 1, growth needs a foundation. There needs to be a there. And if there's not, Gary, there. Plants need soil to grow. Societies need basic laws to grow. Countries need constitutions to grow. Growths need your skin to grow on. Gross. 2, creativity needs limits. This is good for just being a creator. If I wake up in the morning and I'm like, what do I want to make today? That's how I talk when the camera's not rolling. And the subject matter I can draw from is the entirety of everything. I will get into a fetal position and shiver all day, which I do about 3 times a week. I'm not being as consistent these days. Limits often make things much better. I like to use the example of George Lucas making the prequels versus the original trilogy. Although some people like the prequels better, I do not understand. He had a lower budget, less creative freedom, and was constantly fighting the studio and his own personal health to make the first Star Wars. What he ended up making, I feel like it went pretty well for him. And then with the prequels, he did whatever he wanted and made all decisions, it seemed like, by himself unilaterally, and he relied a lot on computers, and it was just... For me personally, limits are a way to combat my perfectionism. I'm only going to spend this much time on this video. This video is only going to be this long. I am measuring time with distance. That is a problem. I'll work on that. Another thing, audiences need expectations. In Seinfeld, I already talked about Seinfeld. Okay, so we already talked about this. Familiarity strengthens bonds. If you're taking in a type of content over and over again, you start to develop an emotional connection to it. Could be a place like a coffee shop every morning, a voice on the radio, certain toothpaste, certain brush you use to clean your butt in the shower. You developed an emotional connection to your butt brush, Gary. And it can be measured. It's hard to measure the success of whatever thing you're trying to do or make unless you're doing or making it the same way every time. Like when I'm weighing myself when I'm trying to lose weight, I weigh myself every morning in my underwear right after I wake up. And I avoid wearing my chainmail underwear. That's heavier. But there are things about consistency that maybe aren't so great. Once you get consistent, it can be addictive and just easy to fall in line with it, and then you can be resistant to change. A good example is Kodak, which was consistently the film company to make pictures with. The world went digital, Kodak didn't, and So be consistent, but also, adapt sometimes. Another thing, it can be boring. Maybe you don't want to be doing the same thing all the time, and that's fine. I mean, that's probably why I don't stay so consistent all the time. Hi.
Tell Vladimir a snack that you're allergic to. Don't come over by me and kiss me because you'll get allergic stuff in it because you're a chew.
Okay. I'm allergic to tree nuts, and she's eating a snack with tree nuts, and she's letting me know to be careful around her. She lets me know every time. She's so consistent. But just know that if you're gonna shirk consistency in place of fun, new, exciting things all the time, your success will be inconsistent as well. It can be a grind. It can just be really hard. It can suck the fun out of everything. It can take a lot of energy to just make yourself do a thing again. And you can be consistently wrong or consistently doing a thing that isn't going to lead to success, which means like in the early days of trying to figure out what it is you want to do, you should probably not just lock all in on one thing immediately. Little experimentation here and there, just try this, try that, but stick with the fundamentals maybe, unless the fundamentals are really dumb too. I often go back and question the fundamentals as well. Like maybe I should be doing hula hooping instead of video. So far I've answered no to that question every morning, but someday you never know which way the world's going to go, and it requires patience. Again, it took 3 years before I ever really saw any success. I guess I had the mindset that, okay, I'm making something that I really like, and there are people who do like it. So it's possible to be liked, which means there are more people out there that will like this. So I'm going to keep going. You could call that wise patience or self-delusion and luck. Regardless, it worked, and it wouldn't have worked without consistency. That's my point, I guess, which I made right at the beginning of this video. I don't know. I'm just making video, you guys. Now to respond to a few comments in my previous video about walking 20,000 steps. Terry Scallon hopes I'm switching up my route. Hopes that I'm switching up my route sometimes. Yes, I am. I have explored all roads and paths around where I live and have found some new stuff, and it is one of the best things about walking, although being so consistent, eventually you run out of places to go and things stop feeling new. There's that whole boring part of consistency. But familiarity is calming as well. So tahini and tofu get sneaky steps throughout the day, such as hanging up laundry in the furthest point in the room. Yeah, when I'm grinding my coffee beans, which we use a manual grinder, I walk around in a big circle in the island in our kitchen. Actually, I've been walking around the circle in our kitchen a lot this past month because 20,000 steps is a lot, and there were many nights where I had to, or it was raining outside and during the day. I've actually grown to kind of like it. Again, familiarity, consistency. Good use of the word gumption, Ryan McNeil. Next, do Moxie. This is Alice prefers my unedited videos. I edited this one. I'm sorry. Speaking of consistency, I'm still doing a newsletter every single Tuesday, and the previous one was about this very topic. You can click down there to read that one or subscribe to the whole newsletter. My friend Greg Benson and I are consistently putting out our podcast, Two Guys Talking About Lettuce. It is literally just us two talking about nonsense in our unique way. The podcast about nothing, consistently coming out every Sunday. I actually listened back to the most recent episode, and there's an ending bit about taking off our clothes, which is, I'm pretty proud of it. Also, I know you're a YouTube watcher. It's got a YouTube page now if you wanted to just subscribe to that. You don't have to worry about any stupid podcast. Currently still working on the main channel video in which China and I turned our smartphones into dumb phones for a month. That should be up in a week or so. That'll do for now.